Marketer of the Day, Episode 618, Healing from the Inside Out. Focus, Productivity, and Incremental Changes with Dr. Nauman Naeem.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We are chatting with Dr. Nauman Naeem, and Dr. Naeem is a pulmonary and critical care specialist who has been interested in human behavior and how to achieve our highest potential since his adolescent years. And his intellectual curiosity and drive motivated him to become a pulmonary and critical care physician. And he's had a huge, amazing career, and he's cared for tens of thousands of chronically and critically ill patients. But he noticed that the majority of patients do not heal, and they remain trapped in the paradigm of chronic disease. So this motivated him to dive deeper into the roots of true healing through studying ancient healing traditions, the psychology of healing, consciousness, and metaphysics, which culminated in the writing of his book. And his book is called Healing from the Inside Out, Overcome Chronic Disease and Radically Change Your Life. So we're going to hear all about that book, why you should check it out, especially if you are an entrepreneur or you're self-employed. And we're going to hear about a lot of Nauman's trials and tribulations and his journey and all of the kind of bumps in the road he's gone through in order to build his business, get awareness, help more people, and just kind of go with take his business in the direction that he wanted it to go. So, Nauman, glad to be talking to you.
Thanks a lot, Robert. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. And so I guess right off the bat, whenever you talk about some of the things like holistic healing or something that's off the beaten path to the traditional medicine, it seems like you get sometimes sort of the pushback, right? It's like some of the stuff is kind of weird, kind of kooky. So if someone is hearing about, well, these other treatment methods, but they're kind of skeptical or they've heard about some real wackadoo stuff, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I'm going to start from the beginning and then tell you what led to this journey that I've been on. I've always been interested in human potential and human behavior ever since I read my first Tony Robbins book when I was 16 or 17, Unlimited Power. And that book blew my mind, and it set me on this path. And I just started to dive further into human potential and human behavior. And my intellectual curiosity has always been a defining factor in my life, which led me to medical school, led me to become a physician. And because, being a physician combined a lot of things that really attracted me, working with people, being able to work anywhere in the world, being of service. But when I got into medical practice after my training, I realized that people do not heal. They get stuck in the paradigm of chronic disease, and they remain stuck in this paradigm. So I started to look at, why does this happen? And what I realized, and I already knew at some subconscious level, but it brought to the surface, is that the problem with conventional medicine and healthcare is that we only deal with one level of who we are, which is the physical. All our treatments are physical, whether they're medications, procedures, or surgeries. So when we talk about holistic healing, for some people that may sound like it's like far out there or off the beaten path, but all I'm talking about is addressing all the different levels of who we are as human beings. The mental, the emotional, our energy, and deeper levels of consciousness. So that's all I'm talking about. And I think that's something that most people can relate to at some level of their life, whether it's in their health, their relationships, or their career or their business. So that's what I'm talking about. And I'm happy to take this conversation in any direction you'd like.
Okay, yeah, I guess to help us understand it better, can you do some sort of a comparison or maybe like a before and after of, is there, say, like a common medical issue where people maybe get trapped in this chronic cycle where that one level fails them versus what's a better solution where you when you account for all the layers?
Excellent. So let's talk about say a condition, an inflammatory condition, an autoimmune disease, for example. Like, let's just say something that people can relate to that's quite common, rheumatoid arthritis. So conventional medicine. So when someone comes with rheumatoid arthritis, and what that is inflammation in the joints. And it's usually autoimmune. And what I mean by autoimmune is your body's own immune system is attacking the lining of your joints. So you go to a general physician, they'll refer you to a specialist, and the specialist will examine you, do some blood tests, do some x-rays, and determine you have rheumatoid arthritis. They will treat it on the level of the physical body, meaning the inflammation, meaning they will give you medications for pain, anti-inflammatories, and that sort of thing. However, in the meantime, all these medications have their own side effects. They suppress your immune system, so because it's an autoimmune condition, that can lead to other complications. It can make you more susceptible to infections and susceptible to cancer and other things as well. When I'm talking about a more holistic approach, what I'm talking about is looking at all the different factors that led to that autoimmune condition. So it didn't just come out of nowhere. Your body is not just attacking your joints for no reason. So we have to look at several different things. So we have to look at nutrition. We have to look at stress. We have to look at our mind and our thinking, because negative thinking is one of the biggest epidemics on the planet right now. And a lot of that has to do with the subconscious mind and how we've been programmed early in our childhood. We have to look at emotional blocks, because there's nobody on this planet who doesn't suffer with some emotional issues at some point in their life. They don't have to be major. They could be minor things as well. And then we have to look at our overall energy, how we're handling our fundamental energy of our body and how we're going from day to day. Are we getting enough sleep? Are we moving our body? And then we have to look at the deeper level of who we are, which is our consciousness. So what I'm talking about is looking at that autoimmune condition, rheumatoid arthritis, in a multifaceted level, not just treating the symptoms, looking at all these factors. So that's an example that I hope your listeners can relate to.
That makes a lot of sense. So you're not just putting the Band-Aid on it, so to speak. You're not just saying, take this medication and then it's got side effects, so then here's some other medication to take care of those side effects, and then all these things together long term kind of make a person's health decline. You're looking at more of the big picture. You're not throwing out the traditional science and medicine. You're just saying, let's have this, but then also look at the sleep, the stress, the lifestyle, the mental state, things like that.
All of those things are very important. And this is relevant I know a lot of your listeners are entrepreneurs. And the reason I feel this is relevant for all entrepreneurs and people who have their own business and professionals is that everybody deals with stress. If you're living on this planet, by definition, you're going to be under stress, especially if you're an entrepreneur running your own business. And the thing is that a lot of entrepreneurs are concerned with focus and productivity, right? That's one of the highest things on their list, that you want to be able to be focused and productive, get the things done that you need to do to run your business successfully, move it forward. But and often we're trying to get all sorts of different things, we're trying to get, at the business level, and that's great. But the most important aspect of your focus and productivity as an entrepreneur is your health. Your health comes first. All those things we already discussed. So that's why I think it's relevant for your audience.
I agree completely that it's hard enough health-wise to be at a desk job, right? You work behind a desk. If it's a 9 to 5, just that alone, it kind of sets you up for failure a little bit as far as the weight gain over the years, unless you take some kind of effort to do some exercise, and then you add that to working from home. So that's even less exercise than a 9 to 5. And then you add to that you might be putting in weird hours. There's all the stress, as you've been saying, all this kind of uncertainty. And then you end up getting into the point where you might have to sometimes listen to some of that self-help or Tony Robbins stuff, or get in a good state in order to actually show up in ways that you might not have to as a 9 to 5er. And then you hear about things where, how Steve Jobs passed away from pancreatic cancer, and that all started when he was sort of working nonstop. That's when he was making all of his driving to Pixar and all this time in the car, and then he started having his health issues, and then he kind of ignored it for a while, and then went kind of the hippie way and tried to change his diet, and then it turned out that maybe if he had tackled it early on and didn't maybe like took it easy earlier on, or looked at all the avenues, not just the diet aspect, he might still be with us if he just kind of took it easy.
Exactly. And that's a great example, because, Robert, when I think about life, right? Life is about being in balance, right? So you have to be in balance. Yes, we all want to be successful. Yes, we all want to have the finances, the freedom. We want to have, all of the time to do the things we love, spend time with our loved ones, vacations, and all those things. But you have to look at, if you're an entrepreneur or businessman, so what are you having to do to achieve those goals? Like, are you spending adequate time with your loved ones? Are you truly paying attention to what you're putting in your mouth and what you're putting into your body? Are you moving your body? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you doing some stress relief practices, meditation, yoga, whatever, martial arts, things like this? So, as an entrepreneur, I think one of the most important things is focus and productivity, but I want to step back from that. It's actually being in balance, right? And the example you gave of Steve Jobs, at one point in his life, he was completely out of balance. And I'm not saying I understand why he developed pancreatic cancer and what led to his demise, but I believe that one of the major factors was his life was out of balance, just like you said.
Scary stuff. And sometimes we let that life creep more and more out of balance until next thing you know, you settled, or you compromised, or you let one part of your life suffer until then it becomes time like, I need to make a correction. I can't I can't ignore this anymore. And so what sorts of things do you do yourself to stay out of that bad zone? What do you do as far, like, you listed all these fun things we can do, like martial arts or meditate. So what do you do to get that balance?
Right. So this is let me tell you, it's been quite a journey that I've been on. So I want to break it down into several different areas. So the first thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about nutrition. Obviously, not obviously, but when I was growing up, I mean, my nutrition wasn't the best because I grew up in a South Asian household, and a lot of oily foods, spicy foods, and that sort of thing. But when I got out of that environment, I really started looking at my nutrition, and I have dramatically changed what I eat. And to go into the details of that is probably beyond the scope of the time we have. So I won't get into the details, but anyone can contact me if they want to know more about that. So I've dramatically altered my nutrition, and I've cut out a lot of foods such as sugar, dairy, gluten, soy, corn, peanuts, things that are inflammatory. So that's one thing I've done. The other thing I've prioritized my sleep. I mean, I know a lot of entrepreneurs who will be killing themselves, working into the wee hours of the night, trying to get things done. And they'll get like little sleep, 4 hours of sleep some nights. But the thing is, if you are to make the most of your day and be productive, you need to get, they say 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but I would cut that back to at least 6 you need in order to be productive the next day. So I have prioritized my sleep. I do some sort of movement practice every day, not necessarily, and I do strength exercises, but I also do some sort of movement, whether it's I practice martial arts, so I do at least 10 minutes of that every day. The other thing is I really tune into what I'm feeling in every moment of the day. Often, we feel that, we're only supposed to feel positive things and not negative things. But the thing is, you're going to feel negative things. You're going to get angry at people once in a while. You're going to feel sadness. You're going to feel overwhelmed and those things. So I really try to tune into what I'm feeling in every moment of the day. And I try to find out, why am I feeling this? What is at the root of this? And I don't resist those feelings. I allow myself, in an appropriate way, feel those feelings and express those, because I believe that emotional blocks are one of the another thing that is too common in our society, and another epidemic, that people are not allowing themselves to feel those emotions. And then I try to meditate on a daily basis. Now, when I talk about meditation, what I'm talking about is taking time to withdraw from the outside world and go within. some people may not like the word meditation, but I'm talking about is stillness, a stillness practice, because there's so much vying for our attention, especially as an entrepreneur, businessman, business person. There's so much. I mean, there's deadlines to meet, there's clients to call, there's like, you got to get you got to work on your website, you got to, all of these things, marketing. But the thing is that there's so much overwhelm, pulling us into the outside world, but we need to take time to withdraw our attention and be in stillness, be with ourselves when all of that is turned off. It can just take a few minutes a day, a few minutes in the morning, a few minutes in the afternoon or in the evening. I think that's important for all entrepreneurs. And I have a gratitude journal. I do a gratitude practice at the end of the day. I write down, or I think in my mind, 3 things I'm grateful for, and different things every day. So that's a nutshell of what I do. And there's more details to that, but we can get into that if you'd like.
Well, I mean, this is a great list so far. This is a great bunch of ideas for people to consider. And they might be things that they have heard before, but it's like if you keep hearing it and you're not applying it, maybe there's something to it, right? And if all these successful people out there in the world do these same things every single day, they get up early, they have that quiet time, they aren't rushed, they get enough sleep, that they do these things to start the day off right and to basically take care of themselves. I mean, there's definitely something to that. And I think that, I don't know, it's almost like, how back when we're all in our 20s, our bodies are almost indestructible. Like we can go to college, we can stay up all night, we can do all night cram sessions and be fine the next day. But then as we get into, 30, 40, 50 years old, then reality sets in, right?
Exactly.
Our bodies catch up with us. And I noticed this probably when I went into probably like very late 20s, early 30s, that I needed to at least do a walk or a run every morning.
Right.
And it started off as just like, it's a good thing to do, put in the exercise, be a little bit healthy. But then I noticed that as I began to get older, that those days that I didn't walk or run first thing in the morning, for whatever reason, it was just a bad day. Like I'd be kind of negative and sluggish and maybe have some anxiety and then need to hit some caffeine. And then that's a whole other downward spiral. So it's almost like almost superstitious, right? It's like if I don't do the morning walk, then it won't be a good day. But if I do the morning walk, then it is a good day. And then sometimes I'll forget, like we all do. And then I'll be like, man, why has the last 3 days been so bad? I'm like, because I didn't do that morning walk. And then I remember to just do that quick, 20, 30 minute walk. And then somehow just these simple things that you're listing here, they work. It's like magic.
You're right. So I want to unpack that for a minute, Robert. What you're doing is that you are grounding yourself and you're setting the tone for your day, right? Because if you get up in the morning and the first thing you do is you check your email or your social media and you have all these things that are vying for your attention right from the outset, you're already distracted and you're already kind of in a reaction mode. So what I would say about your practice of running in the morning or walking in the morning, you're setting the tone for the day. You're grounding yourself. You're giving yourself time for yourself, getting centered so that when you're centered and you're grounded and you're conscious, no matter what the day throws at you, I'm not saying it's not going to be challenging or stressful, but you will be better able to face that. For some people, it could be meditation. For some people, it could be like going for a walk. It could be yoga. It could be anything. I'm not even telling you what you have to do, but you have to do something to set the tone for the day in the morning, just like you've described.
Very good advice. So how do you reconcile this idea of doing things right and being balanced versus being super duper productive? Because I think that if we're entrepreneurs, we love that whole idea of the sky's the limit. I can scale my agency. I can build all these different things. And so, I mean, some days I'm thinking, I'd love to be able to just put in a 12-hour day and do 20 podcast interviews back to back and have my content scheduled out super way ahead of time. So do you have any thoughts on that? Like, is it possible to have our cake and eat it too and have the balance, but also just have insane amounts of productivity also?
So what I would say is that the most important advice I can give to your listeners is that listen to your own body. Listen to your body, because there are going to be days, if you're an entrepreneur, that you're going to have to do that 12-hour marathon, and you just have to get things done. Like, there's just so much on your plate, you have to get that done. However, you can't keep doing that day after day, right? So I would say listen to your body. Listen. Like when I talk about being in balance, it's listening to your body, listening to feeling like how you feel, and just checking in with what's going on within yourself. Because we talked about Steve Jobs and how he developed pancreatitis, right? It wasn't like one day he woke up and the doctor told him, "Well, you got pancreatic cancer." No, he had symptoms leading up to that, which he likely ignored because he was too busy and he had the needs of his work vying for his attention. So what I'm saying is that there will be days where you have to do those marathons and those sprints where you have to get a lot done. But you need to check in with your body. I mean, our bodies are wonderful machines. I mean, the greatest machines ever created. I don't think anything will equal that. But the thing is, they're always giving us messages. The messages are like fatigue, pain, just kind of feeling run down, generalized malaise. So I would say just check in with how you're feeling, not just emotionally, but physically. Your body will tell you when it needs that break, that rest. Sometimes you may need to just get away for a day or two. I've had that as well, where I just need to get away. So we need to really be in tune with our own selves.
That's really good advice. So I guess the disadvantage to getting older, the disadvantage to becoming less indestructible is that, I mean, you kind of have more ups and downs, but then you know what works for you, and you know what messages your mind and your body are telling you, so you get to know yourself better, so that maybe you can anticipate things better and you can get ahead of things better. If otherwise, you might have gone through a slump or a funk or depression or whatever. If you know your body well enough and you know these things are coming on, then you can take advanced steps.
Right. And then this is just not for entrepreneurs, but this is for anybody. Like I'm talking about like general health and preventing disease, chronic disease. Like no chronic disease just comes full blown. Like you have symptoms leading up to that. So you need to look at yourself. What are these symptoms telling me? What are they telling me about, my lifestyle? I need to be eating better. Do I need to be sleeping more? Do I need to be exercising? Do I need to be meditating? Do I need to be dealing with my toxic relationship? Do I need to forgive somebody who I wronged? Do I need to I need to deal with someone else who I've had a conflict with, right? So we're always getting messages from whatever we are experiencing in the moment. The world is always giving us messages. Our bodies are always giving us messages. It's a matter of just being tuned in. And when I talk about that stillness practice, right, whatever it is, meditation or yoga or whatever, it's about not just withdrawing from the world and going within, but it's about being in tune with yourself at the deepest level, so that when you do get those messages from your own body or from the outside world, that you are better able to receive them and act on them more effectively. So that's what that's all about.
Well, really good advice. And so with all the things that we've mentioned here about how we need to be tuned in and listening and take care of our bodies, especially if we're work-at-home entrepreneurs or we don't get maybe the exercise that we used to, we need to be proactive about that. We need to be better about managing our stress and do this meditation and stillness. Is there a low-hanging fruit? Like, is there something that anyone out there can easily implement, so that way they can say, I've heard all of these problems or heard all these solutions, something I can do today in a few minutes? Cool. What is it?
So I would just give you about 3 or 4 points here. The first thing is really look at your nutrition. Look at what you're putting into your bodies. And, there's so much knowledge out there about, there's this diet and that diet. There's all sorts of things. But, the thing is, even though people may argue about what's the ideal diet, I think there's very little argument about what we should not be eating, right? I mean, junk food, fast food, processed food, um, these sorts of things. And it's not about making dramatic changes. It's about, I'll give you an example. Like, say, for example, you get hungry in the middle of the day and you're used to eating a bag of chips or cookies or donuts or whatever. Instead of that, keep some healthy snacks with yourself. Keep some, I don't know, like, assuming you're not allergic, walnuts or pecans or pistachios or Brazil nuts. I do this all the time. I keep them in my car. So when I get that hunger, I'm not stopping at a donut shop and grabbing a bunch of bagels or donuts. I'm just eating these healthy snacks. They're always with me at all times. Figs and dates and these sorts of things. So that's one thing. Looking at your nutrition and making incremental changes, right? You're not going to change your nutrition overnight. That's one thing. Number two is you have to have some sort of movement in your day. That could be as simple as just going for a brisk 15-minute walk at your lunch hour at work, or taking some time out of the day, some sort of movement. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't mean going to the gym for an hour every day. That's not what I'm talking about. It could even be parking far from your office building and going for that extra walk, walking at noon hour, like we said, some sort of movement practice. The other thing is, I know I talked about sleep, and there may be people listening right now that only get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep at night. So I'm not telling those people you need to start sleeping 7 or 8 hours a night. No, this is all I'm saying. Whatever amount of time you're sleeping, if it's not 7 or 8 hours a night, try to structure your day so you get an extra hour of sleep. So if you're sleeping 4 hours a night right now, structure your day so you get 5 hours of sleep. And I know that everyone who I've worked with, who I've talked to, can get that extra hour if they're more efficient throughout the day. And the fourth thing would be some sort of stillness practice throughout the day. Withdraw from the world, go within, whether it's meditation, whether it's going for a walk 2 times a day, whether it's yoga or whatever it is. So some sort of stillness practice. So these are what I say are the low-hanging fruit to start out with. And there's a lot more that I can get into, but it's beyond the scope of this interview. But that's what I would say that people should start thinking about at least and moving towards.
Yeah, and that's all very doable. And you always hear about things or experience things where many times the procrastination of doing something takes way, way longer than actually doing it. And by the time you actually do something, you're like, I should have swept up the garage, months ago. Why was I stressing about it this whole time? So if people are stressed out about their health, their aging, their sleep, their nutrition, their exercise, their stillness from their mental health, maybe the answer is just to keep it simple and just take these little baby steps so that way they can see those quick results from just some slight lifestyle changes. And then when they see that positive outcome, they'll say, oh, well, I mean, if I got these results from having the walnuts in my car or from getting the extra hour of sleep or breaking up the day from some extra movement, then imagine if I just did 1.1 times this, right?
Exactly.
So if we just get it started, then we'll make some progress.
The interesting point you made is that, we often overthink these things. We think, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to just, if it comes into your mind and it's good for you, just do it. Just act. Don't even think. Just act. And then see what happens. Like, we overthink these things, right? I mean, because, as entrepreneurs, we're used to thinking all the time and, thinking about our business and how to get more clients and, be more productive. So just act. I would say just take even the simplest act, even the 4 things I said, just do one thing. And I can guarantee you, if you stick with it, you will notice a difference. It's guaranteed. You just have to stick with it.
I love it. See what the results are. So if people's curiosities are piqued here about getting our mind and our body in order, and they want to find out more about you and your business and your book and things that you offer, where can they find out about all those things?
Yeah, so I encourage them to go to my website. It's naumannaeem.com. I'll spell that for you. N as in Nancy, A-U-M as in Mary, A-N as in Nancy, then another N as in Nancy, A-E-E-M as in Mary.com. And there they can learn about, I have some information on my book. I have a bunch of other podcast interviews I've done. I have a weekly blog, and there's articles there for like at least almost 2 years that you can check out. And I have information on my coaching program to help people, take their life to the next level. And there's also a contact form if they want to contact me, have some questions. I'm open to being contacted. And I'm on Facebook and Twitter. My Facebook page is Healing from the Inside Out. So they can. But my website is the best way to get a hold of me.
All right, fantastic. So that is at Nauman Naeem, and once again, we know that was kind of a lot of letters there, but it's NAUMANNAEEM.com.
Yes,
and that's a great jumping off point if you are at all concerned or just want to up your game a little bit with your mind and body health. Like Dr. Naeem said, you can find his book, interviews, blog posts, and then if you're ready to get things moved over to the next level, there's his coaching program. There's a contact form where you can ask him questions or tell him about your particular situation, or even at the very least, just tell him he did a great podcast interview, and maybe that will get the ball rolling. Maybe that will get a nice conversation started with him, and maybe you can figure out if some of his advice can give you a better lifestyle. So anything just to say here, Dr. Naeem, to wrap things up as we're done here?
No, all I would say is that there's not one person who I haven't met, whether it's a patient or a client, who no matter how successful they are, where they are in their life, who is not able to take their life to a higher level. I think that we can always up level, who we are in our success, in our outlook. So there is always room for improvement, and I just encourage your listeners to check out my website, and if they're interested, to contact me, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions through my website.
Super great. Well, we'll see you there at naumannaeem.com, and do what you got to do on that site, and hopefully that you'll have fun and learn a lot of new things, and most importantly, implement and have and live your best lifestyle and all the good stuff that comes with that. So thanks so much, Dr. Naeem, for stopping by and for telling us what we need to know here.
Thank you very much, Robert. I enjoyed this time.
Check out the latest episodes of our podcast on the web at marketeroftheday.com, and subscribe to us on iTunes at marketeroftheday.com/iTunes, or search the phrase Robert Plank in your iTunes app to find us there.